Recording has started. Welcome, everyone. We are celebrating tonight the 1 year anniversary of the premiere of the All Saints Requiem that all of you participated in. It was a wonderful event. I'll never forget it. I wish we could be together in person, certainly, and I wish we could sing at least one movement from it. That would be great. So I'm going to screen share and begin by playing a video recording of our performance. I hope this works. These are the video recordings we took at the Basilica, and they're on my website. Father Stephen asked me if I have them published. Yes, kind of. The pandemic has set me back remarkably so, but at least I have some nice recordings. This is, if it works for us, the introit. Father Stephen, I'm going to ask you to unmute, and I'm going to ask you a question. Father Stephen was conducting it. What were your feelings? What did you sense in that first performance at the Basilica?
You mean right now or a year ago?
What could be a year ago, if you remember, or right now?
Yeah.
The
First of all, it seems great. I think I've seen this recording before. You know, you sent it around or somebody sent it to me, and there seems to be a lot more background noise today than there was the last time I watched this. But that's really a very, very small and insignificant point, because, you know, the piece just really held together beautifully. And, you know, everyone was just so together at that evening. It really held together. And, you know, I feel very proud to have been part of this, and just a great thing. You know, I want you to know I've sent copies of the video recording to friends in Italy, as I've told you, Doug, already, that there is a choir that wants to perform this in Italy, and
wonderful.
I have held back from sending, you know, a score that I have, you know, the score that I have, knowing that you have, you know, you were going to put it together, or maybe make some edits. But there's interest over there, particularly Parodi, you know, my friend, and, you know, Giancarlo Parodi would very much like to perform the piece there, you know.
Well, that would be fun. My son and I recently put all of the final edits together. And so we do have a final copy, not yet at that published website, but the copy of the Requiem score will be here soon.
Okay.
Katie, let me ask you a question. Would you unmute, please? Katie Williams.
Hey.
Tell me about singing your part in that opening movement.
Oh,
what were your thoughts?
It was much like the descants that you wrote for me in the hymn tunes that we sang at St. Paul's. Usually
is that a good thing?
Yeah, those notes that didn't go together, but yet somehow did go together, and it all seemed to work out. It's very nostalgic to hear that again.
I remember that place where Valerie joins in with you, and you guys it was just like one voice.
It was one voice, Doug, because Val, I ran out of breath, and Val just kept going. So I just kept my mouth open and looked interested. So it was all Val.
And Father Stephen, the last phrase of the introit, you kind of brought that to life. I was not aware of the importance of that text. Do you recall that text? Can you tell us about? You're muted right now.
You know, I'm embarrassed to say I don't remember the text, but I know exactly which phrase you're talking about. It's a rising melody that several parts sing in unison. Ad te omnis caro veniet. That's what it is. To you all flesh will come. So it's almost like a climactic phrase for the whole Requiem, and it just seems like it emerges out of the dense polyphony of the time as like a very confident prayer, you know, that death is not the end. And yeah, I responded to that immediately when I was learning the piece, that it seems so powerful that you would introduce a completely new melody after all of the Kyrie and the prayers to Mary, and all the beginning prayers of the Requiem, Requiem Aeternam. Those words come up with a completely new melody.
You did that several times during the Requiem, and I always appreciated it. You would point out the Latin text and bring it to life, and we sang it better. I remember we really worked on that last phrase because of your discovery. That was wonderful. I have a picture here of that.
the duet with Katie and Val that they just did at the end of that first movement, when you're
Yeah.
singing in thirds for a little bit, I don't remember being so struck by the beauty of that as I was just now hearing it, So, but that's the joy of a piece like this. There's so much in it that you keep discovering new things. But that particularly was beautiful, Katie and Valerie.
Yeah, well, if you were a part of the chancel choir at St. Paul's, you'd be very you'd hear it a lot. Doug would write these beautiful arcing, descants, and sometimes he'd add a second one, and it's a Doug thing. He just does that.
No, it's my great 16th century counterpoint teacher at Ohio State who used to go into monasteries that were closing and steal all the Liber Uz Alice and bring it to her students.
That's a good use for them, though.
Yes, it is. Does everybody see the picture of Valerie and me and Jim Cunningham at WQED? Rich Crean did a lot of behind the scenes work. So I'm wondering, Rich, are you there? Could you share with us some of the things that you did to promote this premiere?
With the good graces of Bishop Dorsey McConnell of the Episcopal Diocese, who actually pays my salary for doing these things, it was an easy sell for me to tell him that the premiere of Doug's Requiem was a good news story that really made the church look good and that the people be receptive to. So when we got the word out early that the premiere was going to take place, one of the places we approached was WQED, where I had long-term connections because that was the first station where I ever worked in my broadcast career. And when Jim Cunningham heard of this, it was an open invitation to come down. So Doug and Val and myself went to see Jim. I think this was February 18th, about 10 days or so before the Requiem premiere. And we went in the studio and Jim did this interview that lasted, I'm going to say 20 some minutes. And I was very impressed that not that the two of them couldn't talk that long, but that he was allotting so much airtime to it. It was not live, it was recorded. But then by strange coincidence, the next day they went into a pledge drive. And I thought, oh gosh, this will never see the light of day. But just the opposite happened. Every time Jim needed a reason to talk about how WQED is part of the cultural community of the area, he would draw on this interview that he did with Doug and Valerie and say, yeah, and they were in there the other day talking about the premiere that's coming up at St. Paul's and out at the Basilica. And so instead of one or two mentions, we probably got dozens and dozens in the days leading up. We actually ended up, or the Friends of Music at St. Paul's ended up becoming a corporate underwriter for WQED, which then also allowed us to work on an agreement for them to record the concert when it was at St. Paul's. And it was then broadcast several months later, I believe, as part of their Performance in Pittsburgh series at Friday nights when they air local talent. Well worth it.
Was wonderful. Everyone contributed in such distinct ways. I think capturing the recording at St. Paul's, the audio recording, and then the video recording was so important. Let me play an example of the audio recording. This is the solo that Valerie sang, Lux Aeterna. I wrote this probably as the last thing I composed in the Requiem, was not any of the choruses, but this one solo. And Valerie sang it at our church about a year and a half before we premiered it. But here it is at St. Paul's. This is the audio recording. and Valerie helped me edit some of it too. I think that high G at the end, Valerie, was that your suggestion?
Yes, it was. And I'd like to ask Katie at this time to help me work on my releases for the future.
Oh, what a difficult thing it is to put all these talents together in compressed amounts of time. Just two performances. Daniel Teat was our soloist from CMU, and Daniel wanted to be here tonight, but he wasn't able to. So he says hi to all. Jim Matakowski, are you out there, Jim?
Yes, I am here.
Great. Jim was another one of our soloists, and along with Rich, premiered in one of the movements. That was so cool. I loved how those two voices blended wonderfully. Thank you, Jim.
Okay, my pleasure.
And I'm going to put the pointer on the organ console. Chaz Bowers was our organist. He has a rehearsal tonight, but he would have liked to have been here. I always wondered how Chaz could possibly play and see the conductor and hear everything going on. But he's a marvelous musician. Chaz Bowers is fantastic. And he did such a good job. And having worked with Father Stephen before on numerous occasions, I think they had a chemistry there that was important to the performance.
Doug, you might remember that we had to align everybody just so that Chaz would have that straight line of shot to Father.
That's right. That's right. And in two different locations entirely. Father Stephen, which was easier for you to conduct, the performance at St. Paul's or the one at the Basilica?
Well, in regard to the visual with Chaz, I don't think I was able to see him at all at the Basilica, or very little. However, we did work out, a good compliment with in your church. And when you speak about the chemistry between us, you'll all recall that included a number of words that we won't say on this occasion, because but we did come to agreement. One of the highlights for me with Chaz's playing was Valerie's solo, because I thought at both occasions that piece just came together so beautifully. The improvisatory quality of it, and Val just had that just spot on. I just thought that was so great.
Here's a picture of one of the students at Franciscan University. I was so pleased. They were so happily involved in this project. I didn't know them, they didn't know me, but Father Stephen did a wonderful job of cultivating their interest and certainly prepared them musically. Do you know the name of this young woman, Father?
Yes, it will come back to me. I did want to say something about the students of Franciscan, because you'll recall, Doug, after the performances, you were going to come and visit us at Franciscan, and something happened, and I don't know, it might have been COVID already that prevented you from coming. And so at a rehearsal, I hadn't warned them, but I asked them to just sit down and we talked. I just asked people to talk about their memories of doing the Requiem. And this was only a week or so afterwards. And I wish I'd recorded that, because it was probably one of the most gratifying experiences as a teacher, because they were so completely convinced by the piece, and they weren't at the beginning. It was a tough sell at the beginning, and I would see their faces cringing when certain dissonances. But at the end, it came together, and at that meeting, everybody just communicated this sense of gratitude of being a part of that, and I'm certain they'll carry it with them, for the rest of their lives. This young woman is a very gifted organist as well as a singer. I'm sorry, I don't remember her name, but
So a lot of them will be in music ministry.
exactly, they will.
I'm going to play the Sanctus for you, everyone, and then we have about 15 minutes. Let's play the Sanctus, and then I will just ask anyone of you who participated in this to unmute and tell us about it. But right now, if everyone would mute their Zoom, and let's listen to the Sanctus, and then I'll ask people to step forward and make comments. Yeah, I think of all the revisions I made. I wrote this between 2011 and 2014, and of all the movements I went back to and revised the most was this one, the Sanctus. And since we sang the Requiem, everyone, the final edits, I think it was the Sanctus, particularly the Benedictus section, that I reworked the most. But it'll be recognizable if you ever hear it again. Who would like to just step forward and make any reminiscences that you have of this wonderful collaboration?
I would like to.
Thank you, Valerie. Go ahead.
So the Sanctus and particularly the Benedictus, it just the word the image just came to my mind of what it does remind me of, and that would be a Rubik's cube. because it's got all these beautiful colors that you cannot figure out how you're going to make this work. And you work it and you work it, and like Doug said, he revised and he went back and revisited, and we revisited, and but in the end it just resolves into this this perfectly square cube with, not square, but this perfectly resolved puzzle. That's what it kind of felt like to me. And the introit, going back to listening to the introit, I think of a distant island in the fog, and I'm on a Viking ship, because that's just how I do it. And I'm hearing like these beautiful haunting voices calling me from this island in the fog. And am I ever going to get there? And there are obstacles and winds, along the way, but it's such beautiful, haunting polyphony, that I finally reach it, and it's like heaven. And that's how the introit makes me feel. And I won't take up too much more time, but I had the distinct privilege of, I don't want to say infiltrating, being invited into the many layers that went into not only the music, but the logistics of this. And what an undertaking. When we look back at it, 3 choirs in 3 different places, and very, very, very complicated music, complicated and exquisitely beautiful music. To bring that all together was no small feat. And as I said before, I feel humbled and extremely privileged that I got to be a part of just about every avenue in that grid.
You went up to help rehearse the kids at Franciscan University, didn't you?
Yes, I did. And what struck me about the kids was they had no idea how much talent they really all had. They were just chock full of talent. Yeah. And Father Stephen had me go a couple of times, I think more for just encouragement. I think hearing me say, you can do this, not just Father Stephen, because of course he's going to say that, but having somebody from the outside come in and say, you can do this. And I was blown away the times that I went and rehearsed with them and helped them with it, at how easily they picked up on it, how well they really did sing, and how much Father Stephen had brought, how far that he had brought them. But it just really rejuvenated my soul to get to work with those kids. I was thrilled.
Thank you, Valerie.
Can I jump in here briefly, Doug?
Sure.
Really, Valerie, you have to recall that too, that I invited you because I felt overwhelmed with the piece, particularly with the students at Franciscan, and you encouraged them, just with your presence and your knowledge about singing, and to have someone like you there. You had my back so many times with the students, and it was just great. And then not only with them, I remember I still have a picture of the choral chart that you worked up. I hope you have an original that, I'd like to have it up on the wall, because very impressive, where everyone was going to sit, to maximize all of the vocal colors and the strengths, and someone was strong in this way and stronger in this way, and would I be able to see them, and would they be able to hear themselves? And it was brilliant, and that took a lot of work and a lot of experience on your part, Valerie, to
it was a little idealistic, but but thank you.
Yeah.
We have 5 minutes. Anyone else like to give some memories?
I just wanted to say Doug, that the students were not the only ones whose first reaction to the music was shock, dismay, and frequently exasperation, especially as we were working through the introit. And it was just wonderful how over time we began to understand the music a little better and a little better, and it began to come together, and we began to own it. And and I still find myself, sort of humming things, especially the Lacrimosa. I mean, it's part of my life now, and I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah, there's a great male line in the Lacrimosa, isn't it? Just wonderful. Thank you, Paul. Thank you.
Doug?
I remember in particular some of the basses of the Camerata who had some interesting descriptions or impressions at the beginning, you know.
It's always the basis.
But you know, that's part of the process of learning the piece, you know, and they came through wonderfully, you know. And I'd love to hear more of the Camaradas, Bobby and Margie and Jim or Mike. I'd love to hear you say something, anything.
Okay, I'm unmuted, right?
Yes, I
Yes.
can hear you, Bobby.
Oh, I just stopped my video though. I just wanted to say
There you are.
it was a lot of work in a good way. I feel like when we got together with the other choirs, like you said, logistically, I don't know how. Father Steve and Valerie, Doug, all the work that went behind the scenes, but I remember as we got together just those few times, each time everybody seemed to be more confident. Other choirs would say more, just how much they were falling in love with all the pieces, and they understood all the messages. We were all touched. I can't even tell you, Doug, how much it just is a part of all of us now. And I'm so grateful that we got it in before we quarantined COVID, just in the nick of time. And it was such an experience when it all came together. I remember feeling when I could get out of my music, this is phenomenal. But all that hard work and like Paul said, when we finally started owning it, and you could get to other levels of the masterpiece that you wrote, I'm grateful to be a part of it, and with all you talented musicians. And the soloists were just, I mean, what can I say? Just gorgeous voices. So thank you.
Thank you, Bobby. We have time for one more reflection.
I wanted to ask Sue Vines and Kathy Bushek, have they regained feeling in their feet after standing on marble for all that time at the Basilica?
That was a challenge. That standing on the hard floor was a real challenge.
It really was, but it was so worth it. And I think singing with the younger voices is so important for someone of my age, and the support that we were given by the other members of just the people around us. It was fantastic. I felt that I was able to contribute because they really had my back. So I appreciated that. And I think maybe we'll be able to sing parts of it for our church, right, Doug? When we get back together?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone. Let's end this session, this gathering, with just a little bit of the last movement. And then what I'll do is I'll stop our recording and we can chat a little bit longer if you wish. But here's the very end of the All Saints Requiem. And I'm going to stop our recording if I can find it here. Let's see.